Oh, I thought we were clear. Excuse me,
Brilliant.
one and all.
That's a good one for the outtakes. Okay. This is the Worldly Wellbeing podcast. I'm Luke.
And I'm Holly. And through the conversations we're having on this podcast, we're seeking to connect with what worldly well-being means. And by joining us today, oh, arsehole. Okay.
Do we just go from the beginning?
Yeah, go on then.
It's really hard not to say I'm Holly. Right. This is the Worldly Wellbeing podcast. I'm Luke.
And I'm Holly. Through the conversations we're having on this podcast, we're seeking to connect with what worldly well-being means. And by listening today, you're joining in the conversation.
So here we are again. Season 3.
We are back again.
It feels a little bit bizarre, to me at least, that it has been a year, probably give or take, that you and I started to have a conversation about what would it look like if we put our ramblings and our musings and our passions and some of our friends and new friends and colleagues into a podcast.
Yeah. And what I like is when we first began, we didn't even have the word podcast in the mix. We just messaged each other and said, let's do something.
Yeah. And what's really exciting, and not that, we have anything concrete to share at this point, is that the conversations have evolved, and let's do something may well continue to evolve again. And I think for me, that's one of the benefits of this past year. We're kind of recording this on the day that lockdown 3 officially ends in the UK.
Wahoo!
Cue Hallelujah chorus. Yeah,
Oh,
the wahoos.
Yes.
And we've been offered, at least you and I have, and really acknowledging the privilege in that space to create. Don't get me wrong, I've missed my freedom, but I've also been really grateful for the opportunities to come together and collaborate and produce something creatively.
Me too. It's been such a joy. And I'm sure that when we are old and sat in armchairs, chain drinking tea and not really giving a shit about the calories in biscuits, we will look back to 2020 and 2021 and think, wow, it was dark at times, but look at the opportunities that came from it. At least that's my vision for my 80-year-old self.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm all on board with, I imagine you and I, and probably a few other people as well, probably in some kind of either communal housing or at least living quite close to each other, being those old people that actually get into a lot of trouble. I'm imagining those 80-year-olds that got vaccinated and then went out and did what they wanted immediately afterwards. Kind of channeling that vibe, to be honest.
Totally. And I wonder what a podcast will look like at that point, because I'd love to think that, I know we'll continue our conversations. I don't think that our WhatsApp messages or mutual groups have really ever taken a break, ever. But I wonder what the kind of conversations we're having on our podcast will look like then.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you think about the kind of the evolution of the podcast over the past year, or at least not even the past year, it's sort of since we started recording and to this point, 6 months or so, I guess, maybe 8 months of kind of actually recording conversations. The kind of the trajectory, the change, and the tone, and the different conversations that we've been having, there has been a real development. And this is something you and I and Holly have spoken about offline, but we're really excited in particular to see where this series goes, because it really feels like this. We're really excited to see where this season goes, because it really feels like the next step. Like, there's some really exciting conversations that are coming up with some really brilliant, thought-provoking, sort of industry-leading voices that we're really excited to share.
Totally. So let's talk a little bit more about the next season. We don't want to give too much away at this point. And we don't want to make too many promises apart from the fact it will be fabulous. um, so, yeah, what are we looking at in season 3?
I think from my perspective, the conversational focus is going to be key. I think what we've seen and what we've tried to do up until now is really focus initially on the conversation between you and I when we first started recording. Then in our second batch of 8 episodes, we spent some time speaking to other people. And now we've really begun to broaden that net far wider. And we're connecting with people that around the globe are doing some really fantastic things. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say around the globe. We're really connecting with people from so many different places across so many different time zones and cultures and experiences. And I think that's really exciting because it's not just you and I sitting there having a chat about, oh, well, I like the color blue and this is why I like the color blue, but rather trying to start having these immersive conversations with people that we then hope people who are listening go away and continue.
You are completely correct about the global aspect. I think we're actually yet to secure someone who's on the same time zone as us.
Yeah.
Which is great. And thinking back to, and you gave a great kind of history of the Worldly Wellbeing podcast so far. I remember after the second season when we started to have conversations about the next one, and we discussed how we wanted to move from I think to I wonder or why or what, to be a little bit more questioning. And I think perhaps we hope to see that in season 3, where we're connecting with some, like you say, really exciting people. And we want this to be quite an open conversation. So we're asking questions. Some of these people are sharing some of the stuff that they're doing, but it's also just a space of talking, asking, wondering.
Yeah. And I think what's really key about that is creating the space to do that. When I lead and train, start again. I think what's really important about that is creating the space for those questions. When I'm leading training sessions or facilitating coaching sessions, that making the space to ask the question and then being okay to leave it open is really important. Those, I think being replaced by I wonder, or asking people to elaborate a little bit more instead of going, oh yeah, I completely agree, but rather saying, oh, could you tell me more about that? Expand on that a little bit for me. How does that make you feel? What else is that connected to for you? Because then I think it makes the focus, instead of it becoming narrower, widens it. And then hopefully people listening will be able to engage with different facets and go away having learned something new, but also wanting to connect with different bits.
So I'm just pausing because I don't want to jump in and say, oh, I was like, oh, I've got so many things I wanted to say. I know what I wanted to say. And I guess that in the last year, one of the only things that hasn't been taken away from us is the ability on whatever platform or way it is to communicate and to still have conversations with people. And I know that conversations and chat are so sacred to all of us, and particularly for you and I, Luke. As wait, where am I going? What did I want to say now? I felt like I was going somewhere. I've lost it.
The sacred nature of conversation.
Oh yeah. So I think that season 3 is really going to be celebrating the space and the ways in which we have conversations, and hopefully, like you say, to highlight the importance and the creativity and the inspiration and just the enjoyment of conversing with someone else.
Yeah, because like you said, over this past year, and it feels so strange to be able to categorize it in that way. I was thinking the other day about it's coming around to the time where you make hot cross buns again. We're approaching in the Western calendar, the kind of Western church calendar, Easter, and there, I remember this being this time last year, this being the first time that I'd baked hot cross buns by myself, and suddenly I'm coming around to it again, going, oh well, here we go, second time, and that kind of way of benchmarking time, it feels really strange to be able to do that, because like you said earlier, there have been so many parts of the last year that have been deeply frustrating and really challenging. I think you used the word kind of dark, like really quite difficult periods of the last year for so many people. And although there have been some really great positives for us in terms of what worldly well-being is becoming, it's also fair to say that, we don't want to be those people that just goes on social media and says, oh, everything's great because it's shiny and I put a filter on it. Actually, this last year has been really tough in some ways as well. And for me, thinking back to Christmas and when they changed the rules on what you can and can't do at Christmas, and then staring down 3 months worth of lockdown in winter, I was in a very low place. And taking the time to connect with people, to even if it's online, has been a real sort of lifeline in kind of what can be quite isolating circumstances.
Honestly, I don't think any of us ever want to repeat January 2021. January is always, if we're honest, an absolutely hideous month. Like, we need to hibernate.
It's foul.
It's hideous. And then throw into the mix a pandemic. It was just, if there's anyone out there who enjoyed January, please connect. Tell me, I need some joy.
Why?
Yeah, but that between the second season, I think there's no one who didn't. Right. So between the second season and now, I think we've gone pretty low. Like, there was a point in January when even memes weren't making me smile. And it didn't matter how funny, how accurate that meme was. Even that, I didn't want to see. And that's a low point, let's be honest.
Yeah, because you kind of get tired of the kind of surface level lightheartedness of it when it's, grey and January outside and drizzly and you can't do anything anyway. And normally the things that you would do, or at least I would do to take my mind off of the fact that it's grey, drizzly and horrendous outside, I couldn't do. So normally I am very fortunate in that I'm able to get away for a bit of early January, or, I've seen family beforehand, and then I'm looking forward to a series of family birthdays across February and then friends' birthdays across March. And all of that was stripped away. So all of my coping mechanisms, my the ability to spend a quarter of my year on this damp island in darkness. This is what I kept going back to. The thing is, I kept telling my poor husband, it's why do we live on an island where a quarter of it is like this? Why do we do this to ourselves? Because that's what I kept coming back to, and all the coping mechanisms felt like they had been stripped away.
Oh, it was just the word damp. I'm sorry, I just need to interject with a little anecdote here. I did a wine tasting course, or wine tasting the other evening, which I'm really proud to say, if anyone remembers season 1, we had an episode, Yoga and Wine, A Tale of Two Lockdowns. Namaste.
I'm namasteing on the screen. You can't see it, but I'm namasteing.
Both Luke and I are proud to say that our lockdown new hobbies, the things we took up in the first lockdown, we have continued with. And anyway, I did this wine tasting and we tried an English wine. And people were just writing comments in the Zoom little chat about what they thought. And someone just wrote, smells like damp. The poor guy running it was like, okay. And he was like, well, it's an English wine. This country's damp. I don't really know what to tell you.
It's so true. It's just the last 3 months where it was just that level of the air was damp, it was cold. Just, yeah. I mean, I don't want to spend the next 20 minutes lamenting the first quarter of the year because it's a very spring-like sunny day today. And given the kind of fluctuating nature of my personality, I see sunshine. I'm on cloud nine.
Oh, me too. I'm like, yes, this is it. I'm loving life. Woohoo, the future. You know, if it rains tomorrow, I'm just going to be curled up cursing the clouds. So just looking forwards, Luke, I had wanted to, what's that expression they use at school? I've got a few, what's that word? When they say like it's practical things they want to discuss. Housekeeping. Oh, that's it. Okay.
Got a few housekeeping items.
Yeah. So I really wanted to reconnect. No, I wanted to connect with my middle-aged woman and say I've got a few pieces of housekeeping I'd like to bring up. Is that all right?
Yeah, but maybe we won't refer to the middle-aged women bit. Oh, you frozen?
You frozen. I've got no idea what you just said.
I said you were giving me side eye because you'd frozen, and I was like, maybe not the middle-aged woman comment.
Wait, as in I should repeat that without middle-aged woman?
Yeah, because that implies that middle-aged women are only the ones that do housekeeping.
No, that expression.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's a bit vague.
Oh, does it? Oh, okay. Right. Let's cut that. Okay, so I would like to bring up a few housekeeping items, if that's
Please do.
And that is that podcasts can only be found easily by new people when they have been reviewed or liked or commented on. A comment is the same as a review, so I apologise for that. Subscribe is the other word I was thinking of. And even the most popular of podcasts, I normally hear the host still going on about this. So I feel like it's okay for us to as well. And that's to say, please like, review, or subscribe. Ideally, all three of the above, because it genuinely will make a difference for other people as well as us.
It definitely will. And that's why Holly says these bits, because she's so much better at doing this kind of thing than I am. But we genuinely have really appreciated seeing how many people are, in terms of how we've grown, in terms of what we're talking about, but also in terms of people listening and downloading, and the countries that people are listening to us from. That's not to say that we're hitting millions of listens and downloads. We're definitely not. But it's really encouraging to see people engage with it and to share it. So it gives us a bit of a boost to know that people are enjoying it. But we also hope, particularly this season, there's going to be some material that you're really going to want to share with people. And we know that last season struck a couple of chords with listeners, particularly around, insights around fast fashion, insights into how we can adapt our lives that really doesn't have a huge impact on how we live, but we can really alter our behavior for the better. We know that kind of had resonated with people, and we're really hopeful that this next season is going to do the same, because the conversations that we've got lined up, I think, are going to be quite provocative in a good way. And hopefully spark some really exciting and interesting questions that you can take away into conversations at home. All of that to say, that only happens if it gets shared.
Exactly. So, before you contact us, contact a friend, before you do anything, to be honest, once you hear the end of our jingle, just press that button. Press that little like, subscribe, or review. It's so simple, but it would be great. Thank you very much.
End of public service announcement.
Yeah,
and housekeeping items.
Housekeeping items are now adjourned for the day. Adjourned, sorry. Oh, I swear.
I like what you did there. You combined adieu with adjourned. So I can kind of see where the thought process was going behind that. Love it.
Dear listeners, I do promise that my vocabulary has not slacked any more than it had. So hopefully I'll be using some more long words this season.
Don't really know where to go from that bit.
No. So I think that's all we really wanted to say in this first episode, isn't it, Lukey?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to bring to the table? Bring to the microphone?
I'm wondering if there's an opportunity. We can cut this bit. If there's an opportunity for us to kind of like offer like a reflection, given that we've kind of looked at the last year and now looking ahead. If there's like, is it too naff or too weird to like offer like a reflection or a thought or a kind of this is what I've learned about me, or you know, something, because then it connects it into that the well-being piece as well. Like, is there an opportunity for us to kind of, you know, what have I learned this past year, and what am I going to then go away and do? What am I going to keep doing?
Yeah. Do you know what? That would have been really nice near the beginning as well.
We can tag it in.
I suppose maybe we could put it in, because I think that's a nice idea. I just think it doesn't work at the end now to pop in.
Well, we can record it, and if it doesn't fit, we delete it.
Yes. Okay, that's cool. So let's record it, and then I'll see if I can pop it in. Do you have thoughts on what you want to say for that?
Yeah, probably enough to blag it.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, something will happen.
Do you want to ask me, or do you want me to ask you first?
I'll ask you.
Okay.
So we've touched on this being a year since everything began, if we're honest. But Luke, if you had any sort of reflection on the last year for yourself, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'd say probably for me is that I have been forced to reconsider what balance looks like across so many different areas of my life. I'm not the most balanced of people. I go in terms of my emotions and my hobbies, and I go from one extreme to the other. One minute I could be ecstatic about the fact that the sun is shining, and the next minute it's pouring with rain, and I'm, angry at the UK. So for me, this past year has forced me to have some very honest conversations with myself and others around what balance looks like. And that's in terms of my working professional life and how that affects my personal life. And I made a decision last year about my job or my jobs. And, I can't believe that was last year, but I took a step back from, the kind of main breadwinner role that I have to focus on the other areas that I'm passionate about, which was terrifying. But it felt really necessary to do. As well as that, I think, sorry?
Really brave step to make.
It just felt that it was the right time. I don't know if the pandemic is the right time for anything, but it felt like it had to be done. I think it's because I was reviewing that balance thing. I wasn't consciously doing that at the time, but that was what was going around me. And as well as that, I think balance in terms of, and this is, I think, going to be a lifetime thing for me, that kind of balance between physical well-being with my mental well-being, exercise, food, all of that. Like, these are complicated subjects at the best of times, but for me, it's forced me to have some very honest conversations with myself. And I don't have any answers to those ones in particular right now, but that quest for balance, not getting rid of, when we're doing yoga, not getting rid of the solar energy and the moon energy, like the more aggressive and the fiery compared to the passive and the chilling out. Like, both are needed, the yin and the yang, the constant balance of life. Like, we need all of those different facets, and it's about bringing them into that equilibrium, which I'm probably a year later not quite at that yet, but I'm conscious of it, at least.
That's surely that's the first step. And honestly, achieving balance in life, I think, is the hardest thing.
Yeah, and it's definitely not in my personality. I'm a perfectionist, and I want to get everything has to be done now, and if it's not done now, then I won't do it kind of attitude. So it's not in who I am to kind of go, okay, balance that out with what else is going on, but it's a process. What about you? What have you dwelt with, sat with, learnt over the past year?
Well, there's been a lot of sitting with things, which isn't really my personality, I suppose. And anyone who knows me knows that for the most part, I have a lot of energy. I like to make the most of things. I love to move around, meet people. I love to be busy. And I guess my kind of motto had always been make the most of whatever it is, which is a really helpful, I think, and it can be a really positive way of living. But maybe I'd misconstrued that at points to be busy, which is completely different. So I think the last year I've really reconsidered what this expression means, making the most of time. And like you, like all of us, I've been forced to stay still. So all the things that I would do before, which were exciting and not wasting time and enjoying life, haven't been able to do. But has it been bad? Well, it's felt like it at times, but overall, no, it hasn't. Like I really, I actually at this point can say I really enjoy a weekend where I'm technically doing nothing, but I'm just being. And I genuinely enjoy that. And part of me is a little bit anxious about normal life and opening up and the idea that I need to be busy again, because maybe we don't need to be so busy and moving around all the time. And I think my birthday, had a recent birthday, everyone. That really highlighted that for me because, I mean, I do love a birthday. We love birthdays. We talk about the birthday season. And, typically my birthday will involve multiple things in a variety of places with lots of different people. And this year, I was stuck in my house in Cambridge and I honestly had one of the best birthdays. It felt really special. What made it amazing was all the people that I love contacted me, thought about me. They showed love. And that didn't have to be us meeting up in person and doing something exciting, but I felt so loved. And I really enjoyed that time. So that's where I'm going. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, apart from to say slowness, just being, making the most of time doesn't have to be active.
I really like that. It reminds me of that cliche phrase, we're human beings, not human doings. And I think we often, particularly in the society and the culture that we live in the UK, it's easy to forget that. So holding on to that sense of how do I be right now, as opposed to how do I do right now, is really, really profound.
Thank you.
Okay. That might be a jingle moment, maybe to feed into something else so that it's less of a, oh, look, it's lockdown.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, so now the last thing we ended with was I'm saying, have you got anything else you'd like to share? And you were like, I don't think so.
Yeah. So, okay.
So should we just say so? We'll be here, this time next week.
Yeah. Season 3 of the Worldly Wellbeing podcast is. Hold on. We are in the. No, hold on. I don't want to say it. Recording for season 3 of the Worldly Wellbeing podcast is under full steam, and we will be here same day, maybe same time if you listen to us at the same time each week. Next week, 8 more episodes, or 8 episodes total for this season again. And we can't wait for you to get stuck in and to hear the wisdom and the experience of those that we've spoken to.
And of course, our dulcet tones.
Well, we all know the real reason that you're listening.
Exactly. So we look forward to hearing from you. So we look forward to hearing from you and conversations to be sparked.
Peace
Woohoo.
and love.
Ciao for now.